Did he or didn't he know about the extent of us spying on our allies before the summer? Did he or didn't he know about the extent of the gaffes of Obamacare before September? And is it or is it not ruining the Obama presidency legacy with presidential plausible deniability? Talking about that next on Get Right with Lenny McAllister, starting right
now. Get Right with Lenny McAllister.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what?
What? Say what?
Johnny, this character is not me.
Say what?
Stop it!
The way we help bring back America and we build the bridges and bring people together is by making sure we hold everybody accountable in a 360 fashion.
So let me close with this. Yes, there is a change that we can believe in, but it will never come from a politician or a government program.
We cannot find physical standing here in the land of Lincoln from Carbondale to Elgin that we collectively continue to tolerate the insanity found on the streets of South Chicago and East Texas.
We got to move away from the American Idol soundbite nature of politics and back to the American statesman of humble servant leadership that we used to see in politics.
It is time to roll out the era of the new, educated, engaged, and energized American citizen.
I go do the jail ministry. I speak to the kids in the streets. So I'm never going to lay down being conservative just as much as I'll never lay down being a proud African American.
I feel like a black republic. Money I got coming in. Can't turn my back on the hood. I got love for them. Can't clean my act.
Say what? The president once again says that he does not have the information you think he should have, and presidential plausible deniability we're talking about here on Get Right with Lenny McAllister. Thank you for joining me. You know the drill. I appreciate those that follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. You know where to find me once again on Twitter. It's LennyMcAllister. Very simple. My first name, my last name, together, Twitter. Facebook, a little different, but not that difficult. Very simply, tinyurl.com/Lenny page. It's tinyurl.com/Lenny page. Want your feedback? Always appreciate you listening. Always appreciate you sharing. Always appreciate the dialogue because it truly is one big team out there, folks, regardless of what we think with the bickering. And I think that what I'm going to do with one of these podcasts, to be quite honest with you, is at some point in time, I think as a fellow African-American, big-eared man that once lived in Hyde Park, I think that I have a kindred with the president where I think we need to have an ear-to-ear type of talk where he probably won't listen to me. But I feel as though as a fellow American, and I do believe the president is an American, and I'm not getting into the birther stuff. But I think at some point in time, someone needs to just talk to him. Just brother to brother. Now, we're not peers. He's the president, and I'm not. But watching this go on, I'm going to spend a podcast just kind of building some of this out. And it's not going to be from a rip the president apart perspective, because Lord knows we got plenty of people that will do that. And I criticize the president enough, and I've criticized my party enough. I've criticized the Democrats enough. I have tried to do what I can to provide value to our country. And I don't think that there's that much value added when you continuously just do nothing but criticize the president without offering solutions or without being intellectually and politically honest when he does something right. So this will be an exercise, and it's not going to be today, but it will be an exercise coming up soon where I'm sitting down and I'm just having a heart-to-heart, an ear-to-ear, if you will, with my, kindred-eared brother as his formerly evil twin Republican cousin living from across the street in Hyde Park in Chicago. But that'll be another day. I have to criticize him today, though. And the reason why I'm saying that is because this presidential plausible deniability is just becoming way too convenient for this president. Now, let me put some parameters on this first and foremost. And again, agree, disagree, you know where to find me on Twitter. The first thing I'm going to put on this is this. I don't like when any president goes down this path a little too much. Yes, government's big. Yes, you want to protect your president. Yes, you want to have a certain amount of deniability, plausible deniability, if you will, that your commander-in-chief needs to have when it comes to certain operations within your government, especially when you start talking about CIA operations, you start talking about the FBI, you start talking about things in wartime. Yeah, you want your commander-in-chief, when it comes to diplomacy, to be above board so that when you're doing some of the grimy stuff, it doesn't get slung all over him or her. And I say him or her because there will be a female president one day, and I come from a generation that does not think this is going to be a very big deal. I mean, it's a big deal as far as a historic thing, but in regards to can a woman do the job, please don't ask me that question when the time comes. Whether it's in 2016 or 2020 or anything else, please don't ask me that question. I don't want to hear it. It's insulting. It just is. So anyway, with that said, you want to have a certain level of presidential plausible deniability. I get that. But this president reaches into that cookie jar way too often. And you're seeing it happen twice in the same week. So when you look at the situation that's been going on with all of our allies being up in arms in regards to the spying, which, by the way, yeah, we know everybody spies on each other. However, and I've said it repeatedly, when your Nobel Peace Prize winning president gets caught doing this at a time where they drew a red line and almost got us into a conflict in Syria, basically violated a sovereign nation's borders and took out one of our most hated enemies, which, okay, from an American standpoint, that was great. From a Pakistani standpoint, you just came into our country and executed Osama bin Laden, which, by the way, of course, you can get into they were lying, not lying, etc., as far as his whereabouts. But you're still talking about a sovereign nation just violating the borders and doing whatever the heck you wanted. That's not good for a Nobel Peace Prize winning president. And again, you could sit there and say his obligations to the United States first and foremost. I agree with that, but we're talking about political optics, and we're talking about the image on which this president ran for the presidency in 2008 as a national novice in a lot of regards. He ran against a guy that had 36 years in the U.S. Senate, which was 3/4 of Barack Obama's lifetime at that point in time. He beat Hillary Clinton. He beat John McCain. The first guy's his vice president, by the way, for those that didn't realize that. Senator Biden became Senator Biden when Barack Obama was Barry Obama. He might not even have been Barry Obama, but we won't go into that either. But he was in about third grade when Senator Biden first went to the U.S. Senate. Just something to think about when you start asking the question, why did this guy become president in 2008? He became president because of the promise of doing things above board, uplifting the esteem of the United States of America. So, okay, fine. You have this go on, and all of our allies are having a fit, and we've talked about why the optics are bad. But when this president grabs into the cookie jar of presidential plausible deniability, at the same exact time, you have a domestic controversy going on, and basically, you're hearing Kathleen Sebelius, head of HHS, saying, don't blame the president, blame me for the failures of Obamacare. Well, and the president really didn't understand how much of a gaffe this was going to be with the rollout from a technical standpoint to September. Just like he didn't know that we were spying on our allies at the extent that we were until the summer. This is not the first time that this president has said these things. I mean, heck, we can go to Benghazi, and if you're a conservative, you're still pissed off at Benghazi, and you're listening intently to what Senator Lindsey Graham is saying, which is basically you're not getting any more nominations getting through the Senate until we start having some hearings about what happened in Benghazi. And once again, you got the Obama administration saying we know some things, we don't know all things, and we just didn't know. And we all know how that started out. Number one, before I even get into the video that everybody was up in arms about that became a protest that got out of control that we know was a lie. Before you go to that, because that's step 2. And people think that that's the first step and that's where this all started. No, this all started because in 1 and 1A. Number 1, 1A and 1B. Let's go to that. Let's just be honest. 1 is you had Vice President Biden going around with his lovely, convenient bumper sticker for the 2012 re-election campaign. GM is alive and bin Laden is dead. And everybody thought that was cute. And yeah, you know, it fits on a bumper sticker, but it pretty much pissed off Al-Qaeda, who, by the way, hadn't gone anywhere. They were just a little weakened. We took care of some of their leadership, obviously. But you're not going to get rid of terrorism the same way you got rid of the Soviet Union through a Cold War and spending, or the same way you got rid of Hitler in the 40s. So to poke the bear wasn't exactly the best idea. That's number one. Number two, the campaigner-in-chief, who, as a commander-in-chief, should have avoided buying into that. But no. It was a presidential election season. And if there's anything that Barack H. Obama, 44th president of the United States, does well, it's campaign. And it's speak, and it's getting the rhetoric going to get people to the polls. So he put the hook in his mouth and he went along with this. And basically parroted that in Charlotte, North Carolina. Basically the same rhetoric. GM is alive. Bin Laden is dead. Right around the anniversary of 9/11. So when you get 1A, Biden doing this, and, Biden doing it, 1A, President Obama doing it, you're going to have to actually, it's the other way around. Let me get my variables straight. 1A, Biden started it. 1B, President Obama bit into it, which rolls into the chief number one thing before you get to number two with the lies. Number one, it was a campaign election that was going on. You were in full campaign mode. Election year 2012, tight election, bad domestic economy. You have all those things going. President Obama needed the foreign policy win over Mitt Romney. And that's how they were going to do it. So if you don't have that, you don't have them lying about the videotape, you don't have the presidential plausible deniability that they tried to use in 2012, that they're pulling out again, reaching into the cookie jar twice in 1 week now. Look, I don't care what most people have to say. Do want your feedback. I'll interact with you. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you. So that's what I mean when I say I don't care. I care. I want to hear you. I don't care because it's not going to change my mind on this. Because this is what I believe. If you don't think that the Obama presidential legacy is being hurt every time he claims he didn't know, it's not my fault, my people did it, it wasn't me. You know, or you go back to 2009, Fox News shouldn't have come after me, or these people are coming after me personally. You can't play that line but so many times. You just can't. And I know that this president has gone through racism. I'm not going to say that he hasn't. I'm not going to say that some of the things that this president has gone through has not been historic in its animus, because it has been. But not all of it has been. And anytime you're the commander-in-chief, you are numero uno. We won't even get into how he skirted the legislative process when it comes to illegal immigration. That wasn't a point of saying numero uno, but that's just another example. When you do these things for your convenience, you're smart enough to delay certain aspects of Obamacare because you're that much in the know, but you don't know anything else when it comes to other aspects of Obamacare, and then claiming plausible deniability. Look, you can't be a weak president and a strong president at the same exact time. You can't be in the know and at a distance at the same exact time. This is the problem that he had in 2008 and in some regards in 2012. Being too professorial, being too distant, not being attached. You can't be no drama Obama and have everything under control and then be no clue Obama when it's time to be able to walk away from a situation and not get the dirt all over you, not get the muck all over you, not get tripped up by the controversy. I mean, look, this is not the kind of friend you want. And it's kind of funny because let's just be honest and give me your feedback. I know everybody said, well, you know, we elected a president, not a friend. Yeah, we also elected somebody we thought we would trust more than we thought we would trust either Romney or McCain. Because if you look at the economy, people thought that Romney probably would handle the economy slightly better. If you look at government experience, McCain had President Obama beat dead to rights. In fact, he had more time in the U.S. Senate than Barack Obama spent time in government, period. Whether it was State Senator Obama, U.S. Senator Obama, or President Obama. He has more federal experience, foreign relations experience than Mr. Obama does, 44th president of the United States. So you can't make the argument that we were electing him on his competency when he didn't have a very full record. So now you turn around and say, okay, well, if that's the case, then probably it is true that we elected this gentleman in many, many regards because he was going to be transparent, he was going to be open, and he was going to be accountable. You can't be accountable when your hand is caught in the presidential plausible deniability cookie jar twice in 1 week. You can go get it every now and then. You should, because you're the president of the United States, and it's something that you just need to do. We get it as an Americans. I think more than we get it as Americans, I think that the world gets it every now and then. We get it with world leaders. But this president, and this is the argument I'm making, would love your feedback, Twitter or Facebook. The argument I'm making is this. This happens way too often. And now we're going to have this hearing coming up with Kathleen Sebelius. I would tell you, bet your bottom dollar, bet your top dollar, bet the penny that you find on the sidewalk and a dollar you see laying, underneath the rug and the quarters underneath your mattresses of your couch, that she gets thrown underneath the bus. I know that he said he will not take her resignation right now. I know that Republicans are calling for a resignation. I know it would be more embarrassing for her to resign right now than it would be for her to stay in office and bumble and fumble through this. You want to know why? Because it's a lot easier to throw the same person underneath the bus repeatedly, especially if they just refuse to die, proverbially speaking. Not literally, of course. We don't want anything to happen to her. Literally. So you understand the analogy. I have a problem with this, because at some point in time, you got to hear the president say the buck stops here. You don't hear that with this president. This president was going back to the Bush era with the economy last year in the heat of the campaign season, in the throes of the depths of the convention season. You got to remember where we were. You got to remember what the Bush-era Republicans did to us. Don't give them control. We need to have the House of Representatives. We need to keep the Senate, and you need to keep me in the White House. It's been his economy now for 4 full years plus. People are jumping out of this economy. His noteworthy landmark achievement that he skirted through the Supreme Court because it was called a tax and not healthcare reform. So it was even renamed and misnamed by the Supreme Court in order to get it through. Now the technical rollout is horrible. He doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't know about the fact that, you can't keep your doctor anymore. By the thousands, people are finding this out. But that was one of the main things he had been saying since 2009. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. No, you can't with Obamacare, because it was a very simple argument. If you work for a small business and they got the choice of keeping you on a plan or kicking you off the plan, paying the fee themselves and telling you to go into the exchanges, the cheaper choice was going with the latter. And anybody that can do fourth grade math could figure that out. And they did, and they've been saying it for the last several years. And all the while, the Obama administration has been trying to put into place this health care plan that was doomed to fail in some regards. And again, I keep telling you, as we wrap up soon, in its current form, Obamacare, as is a bad law. In its entirety, in its current form. It has some good aspects. But some of these things that the president continued to flat out use his presidential plausible deniability card on, now you didn't know. How could Jay Carney, how could somebody possibly have known that this was going to have this kind of impact? You had to have known. You're the government. You have all these resources to do the research. You are talking to all these insurance companies. You are the ones that put this landmark legislation into place with only half of the political system involved and a minority of Americans actually wanting it in place like this. So you better be sure. This is the problem I have with this plausible deniability, is you can't say you could not have possibly have known and then say you know so much you have to listen to me. Even as we jerry-rig the electoral process, even as we fight a re-election recount up in, not re-election, but a recount up in Massachusetts, not Massachusetts, Minnesota. You see what I mean? I'm alliterating here for your enjoyment. But with the recount situation in Minnesota and flipping the late Arlen Specter from Democrat to Republican back to Democrat over the course of his career, to get the supermajority so that you can get this through, and then when you lost the supermajority, just say we're going to go through different means in order to get the bare necessity required to get this law passed in both chambers of Congress in order to move forward with the plans that we say we know what we're doing. But if we want to deny it a couple years later when it doesn't work, we want the president to be able to do that. Now, what's so crazy about this is the fact that he's a lame duck president. Take the heat. Let the Democrats have a second life in 2014. Instead, he is throwing people underneath the bus, which is only going to make the Democratic Party look bad in 2014. And if the Tea Party and the Republican Party and conservatives that are not necessarily in love with either one of those two factions but want to see a different direction coming out of Washington after November 2014, if those individuals take advantage of this president, in my regards, from my perspective, in my opinion, using the presidential plausible deniability card too often and thus throwing Democrats underneath the bus, guess what? Guess what? You may have the Republicans strengthened in the House. You may have a weakened Democratic majority or even a Republican majority in 2014. And guess who you'll have to blame? The denier-in-chief. Yes, I done said it, the denier-in-chief. The presidential plausible denier-in-chief. What do you say? You know where to find me on Twitter, LennyMcAllister. You know where to find me on Facebook. You know I love you. I'm going to talk to you mañana after Sebelius speaks here on Get Right with Lenny McAllister. I'll talk to you soon. Have a wonderful day. TCNGB. Peace.